I can still remember the exact moment it happened. The smell of gasoline, the screech of tires, the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. It's funny, in a cruel sort of way, how a memory can sting as sharply as it did 15 years ago. Now, sitting in my corner office with the Manhattan skyline sprawled behind me, my silk blouse catching the morning sun, I could almost hear the faint echo of that deserted gas station. My phone buzzed, a message from my sister, Claire. "Maddie, can we talk before the wedding?" My chest tightened. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very sister who once left me stranded now wanted to reconnect. I sipped my coffee slowly, feeling the warmth spread through my hands, trying to steel myself for the emotions I had so carefully boxed away. Pride, anger, and a curious trace of longing tangled inside me. I remembered how my fingers used to shake when I faced her, how I had swallowed my voice and swallowed my tears, pretending everything was fine while the world moved on around me. I kept certain truths hidden: my apartment, my success, my independence, treasures I had built alone, brick by brick. And now, here was Claire, unaware of the woman she once dismissed, casually inviting herself back into my carefully constructed life. The city hummed below, oblivious, as I read her words again. Could I forgive her? Or was this my moment to finally reclaim the power I had earned in silence? I was 17 that day, the summer sun baking the highway as our family car cut through endless miles of asphalt. My excitement had been palpable: Claire's wedding, a chance to feel part of something bigger, something sparkling. I had worn my favorite yellow sundress, the one Grandma Ruth always said made the sunshine jealous, and my heart had been lighter than air. We stopped at a small gas station in the middle of nowhere. I begged to use the restroom, the squeak of my sandals echoing on the tile floor. When I returned, the car was gone. My stomach dropped, my hands trembling as I ran out, calling for them, my voice cracking in panic. The pump hissed, the wind whipped my hair into my face, and the hot asphalt seemed to stretch endlessly. I remember the sharp sting of betrayal. My parents, my sister, the people who were supposed to protect me, had left me alone. My throat tightened with unshed tears as I hugged my backpack close, wishing desperately for a friendly face, a hand to hold. Every instinct screamed that I had been abandoned, that I had been invisible. I wanted to scream, to run, to vanish, but instead, I did what I could. I took a deep breath, pressed my palms to the warm concrete, and made a decision. Grandma Ruth's words came back to me, like a lifeline tossed across years. "Maddie, the world will test you. But remember, even the smallest light can guide you home." She had slipped a small charm into my hand the night before, a silver star, delicate and cool against my skin. That star, she said, was my reminder that no one could dim my light, not even the people I loved most. I pulled the charm from my pocket and held it tight, promising myself that I would survive this, that I would become someone who could never be left behind again. That gas station wasn't the end of my story. It was the ignition. I didn't immediately know how to move forward, but that silver star in my pocket reminded me I had a choice. I started small, taking odd jobs in the city, waitressing, tutoring, freelance writing, anything that would pay rent and buy me the freedom to think. At night, I would sit on my fire escape, clutching that charm, watching the skyline shimmer like the life I wanted to claim for myself. It was during one of those nights that I met Lillian Grant, a seasoned editor at a small publishing house. She noticed the notebook I always carried, brimming with unfinished stories and half-baked ideas. "You have a voice, Maddie," she said one evening over the hum of her old office heater. "Don't let anyone make you feel small." Those words, simple as they were, hit me harder than anything Claire's family could ever throw my way. Lillian became my mentor, tough, demanding, but unwaveringly supportive. She taught me the industry, opened doors, and most importantly, taught me to believe in my own talent. The path wasn't easy. I spent sleepless nights editing manuscripts, pitching articles, learning the business, all while living in a cramped studio apartment that smelled faintly of old books and instant coffee. Self-doubt crept in often. Every rejection letter felt like a ghost of that abandoned gas station, whispering I wasn't enough. But I persisted, learning to transform that fear into determination. Small victories began to accumulate. My first article published in a reputable magazine felt like a quiet triumph. My first freelance client willing to pay my full rate felt like recognition I'd never get from my family. I saved every dollar, invested in courses, and slowly, invisibly, built a life they would never suspect existed. I didn't brag or post lavish updates online. I learned to savor my victories quietly, letting them build a reservoir of pride and confidence. By my mid-20s, I had my own small consulting firm, helping authors and creatives navigate the publishing world. I had finally reached a place where I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And all the while, that silver star remained on my desk, a reminder that even in the loneliest moments, my light could guide me forward. It was strange, realizing I could have the life I wanted without needing approval from anyone who once left me stranded. I had rewritten my story entirely. The girl abandoned at a gas station was gone. In her place was a woman who carried herself with quiet authority, unshakable resilience, and a sense of joy that came from self-earned freedom. The day Claire arrived, I almost didn't recognize her. She had grown into the image of the perfect bride, glowing, polished, the life she had always demanded from those around her. And yet, beneath the layers of satin and confidence, I could see the same sister who had once left me stranded at a gas station. I invited them into my apartment, my carefully curated sanctuary in the heart of the city. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating shelves of books I had edited, awards I had quietly earned, and the little personal touches, a collection of vintage cameras, framed sketches from writers I'd mentored, and of course, the silver star resting prominently on my desk. Claire's eyes widened the moment she stepped in. "Maddie, this is amazing." I smiled, letting her words hang, letting her take it all in. The expensive art on the walls, the soft leather chairs, the hum of quiet productivity, all the trappings of a life built on hard work, determination, and independence. My parents followed behind her, their smiles faltering as they absorbed the truth. The girl they had abandoned was no longer the one they had left behind. I motioned toward the desk. "This is where I've been building my career, my independence. I run a consulting firm for writers and creatives. I have clients all over the country. And yes, I own this apartment outright." Claire's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, a silent gasp. My mother's hand flew to her chest, and my father's jaw tightened. I let a beat pass, savoring the subtle shock that rippled through them. "I never needed anyone to rescue me," I continued, my voice calm but firm. "Not you, not anyone. That day at the gas station was humiliating, yes, but it taught me something invaluable. I am capable. I am resourceful. And I am not the same girl you left behind." They sat in stunned silence. My sister, the one who had planned a wedding that left me behind, was now confronting a sister she barely recognized. My parents' expressions shifted from guilt to awe, though pride was tentative, as if they were unsure whether they had permission to feel it. I gestured to a folder on the coffee table, a portfolio of projects, contracts, and letters of recommendation. "These are the results of years of hard work. You can see now that abandoning me didn't break me. It strengthened me. And everything I have, I earned myself." Claire's voice trembled. I had no idea. "Maddie, I'm so sorry." I raised a hand, letting her apology float in the air. It was enough for now, but my forgiveness, like my success, would be on my terms. This was my moment, not for retribution, but for assertion. I had turned the shame of that gas station into a life of power, creativity, and independence. And for the first time in years, I felt truly seen, not as the girl who was left behind, but as the woman I had chosen to become. I looked at them, my sister, my mother, my father, each one of them waiting for me to define the rules of engagement. I had the upper hand now, but I didn't want to wield it as a weapon. Power, I had learned, was not about revenge. It was about clarity, boundaries, and making sure no one could diminish me again. "Claire," I began, holding her gaze, "I want to be part of your life again, but on different terms." You need to acknowledge the hurt you caused and be willing to make amends. I won't be invisible anymore, and I won't let the past repeat itself. Her lips trembled. I understand, Maddie. I want to do better. And Mom, Dad, I continued, my tone calm but firm. You need to recognize that I am not the same girl who relied on you blindly. If we're going to rebuild our connection, it must be based on respect, not obligation or guilt. I will help you, but only if you commit to supporting your own lives, pursuing your passions, and letting go of old toxic patterns that held us all back. I outlined my conditions like a blueprint for their growth. Claire would volunteer at a community center she had always spoken about, finally following a meaningful path of her own instead of chasing perfection. My mother would enroll in her art classes again, reclaiming a joy she had abandoned for others. My father would attend counseling to address his temper and learn to communicate without control. Each requirement tied back to healing, to ensuring we could all coexist without the shadow of that gas station ever looming again. I could see their reactions shift from tentative guilt to contemplation. Change wouldn't be easy for them, but it was the only way we could move forward. Then I added the last, crucial point. And remember the star, I said, pointing to the silver charm on my desk. It's a reminder that everyone's light matters. I survived being abandoned because I believed in mine. You'll need to do the same for yourselves. A hush fell over the room, charged with unspoken promises. They were processing, finally, that this wasn't about punishing them. It was about setting boundaries, reclaiming dignity, and building healthier relationships. And in that moment, I felt a sense of relief, a quiet joy in knowing that I could extend compassion without compromising my strength. For the first time, I realized that leaving me at that gas station hadn't just been a moment of pain. It had set in motion the life I was always meant to lead, independent, unyielding, and fiercely compassionate on my own terms. Weeks passed after that day, and slowly, the changes began to show. Claire started volunteering at the community center she had once only spoken about. Mom brought home canvases, the smell of paint filling the apartment as she rediscovered a joy she had buried. Dad attended his sessions, learning to listen without judgment, to support without control. None of it was perfect, but it was real, the beginning of healthier connections built on respect rather than obligation. I watched them with quiet satisfaction, not from a place of superiority, but from a place of hard-earned empathy. I had learned the value of boundaries, of self-respect, and of patience. And in guiding them, I had reaffirmed my own growth. The silver star, still resting on my desk, gleamed softly in the sunlight, a reminder of the promise I made to myself years ago at that gas station. I remembered the girl I once was, abandoned, humiliated, vulnerable, and I allowed myself a small, private smile. That little girl had survived, had learned, had built a life that was entirely her own. And in that survival, in that creation, I had found power, resilience, and grace. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that lonely gas station. The hum of the pumps, the heat of the asphalt, the sting of betrayal. But now that memory feels different, not a wound, but a marker, a turning point. I no longer feel anger when I think of it. I feel strength. I feel the quiet triumph of a life reclaimed. The star on my desk catches the light, and I speak softly to it, almost like a ritual. Thank you for guiding me. And in that moment, I realized the truth I had carried for years. I am not defined by what others do to me, but by what I do with the power I discover inside myself. I am Maddie Harper. I survived being left behind. I built my own path. And I shine, bright, unwavering, and fully, unapologetically me.